Hi guys, Jen with Astro Tea. Today we are rounding up the month of August. It was an intense month astrology wise. So we're going to do a little bit of going back before we move forward. So we are first going to talk about the Venus square to Mars that happened on the 22nd. It came and that was at its exact, but we're still feeling the resonance from it. And then we have the sun moving into Virgo. So happy birthday to all you Virgos out there. This is your season. But that square happening too might make it a little bit interesting. Mercury then stations direct on the 28th. So what have we learned from that? On the 29th, we have Venus moving into her home sign of Libra, back into dignity. So first, I wanted to add some follow-up for the events around the 14th through the 22nd. The double T squares that we had, Mars, Jupiter, the Mercury, Uranus, and one thing that really stands out that really resonated with these aspects is where I live here in Connecticut. We had a big storm come through in one part of Connecticut Sunday the 18th. So that was the day, I think, either exact of or the day before of some of these exact double T squares that happened. The full moon was the day later. So full moon, that's tides, that's water. So we had a really bad storm come through. I'm sure if you're from the United States, you might have heard about it. It was on all the news. The rain actually was moving up from south to north and stopped over an area. So this, if we think about what that T square was, we had Saturn in the T square. That Saturn blocks, and that's in Pisces, blocking water. And it was in opposition to Venus in Virgo, the earth sign, square to Mars that was conjunct Jupiter. So we have this conjunction here, squaring, and then squaring. So we have this big square. Well, they were in opposition and then both squaring the Jupiter-Mars square. So, or Mars conjunction. So that was really making something a lot bigger, something action, something that really, kind of took place with a lot of force. There's that Mars in there. And then there's that Saturn in Pisces, which is putting blocks and stopping. And so what had happened, again, with this rain that kept coming down, it really just matched exactly what this T square was telling us, because it stopped over one area and it dumped close to, I think, 10 to 13 inches of rain within just a couple hours time. And the flooding, there was flooding, so that's Pisces, and that's, Jupiter really, expanding things. And then we also had bridges collapsing. I think there was like two or three bridges in that town that collapsed. Mud everywhere, so there's the earth brought into it. So the Mercury-Uranus square, there's cars breaking down. Suddenly they were flooded with water so quickly in these vehicles. That's Mars-Uranus, things happening fast, and that's happening to like little short travel trips. And the occupants couldn't actually get out fast enough. And unfortunately, we did lose 2 people that day. And in these floods, they got swept away, and it's just horrible. So you could see that something was going to happen with this T square. And I know everybody is so focused on the election that's happening that you don't look at the smaller areas, like in just your small town or your small state, that this stuff could be happening in. And so, it's that, I've lived in this area my whole life. So yes, we do have storms, but I've never seen anything like this. 51 years, you just never know how the astrology will show itself in so many different ways. So, whatever you expect it to play out could be completely different, especially when Uranus is involved. We also saw another thing about it was the protesters at the DNC convention. And that started right as all these squares were really coming to fruition. And they were literally breaking down barriers. So that is, the action taken, breaking down the barriers that Saturn people in charge, the police, were trying to put up to keep them out and to keep the people at the DNC safe. So you're seeing it play out in that way as well. And one other thing, a little bit earlier, we saw Ukraine having a big win in Russia, which I found really interesting because they are kind of that underdog. And it even was setting its sights on Moscow. So that's that really big Mars Jupiter squaring Saturn, kind of taking down the big guy, taking down those blocks and just breaking through the barrier. And they really just kind of broke in, and got into that kind of fatherland, that Saturn that is Russia, because Ukraine, broke free of Russia, and so it was like almost like the parent that they're then going against, and they're breaking down those barriers. So I think that's also big gains, these big Jupiter, and then also with the shocking drives and offensive. So, with that Uranus brought in there. So there's so much going on with all these aspects, just kind of all happening at the same time. So lastly, there has been rumors about RFK Jr. is going to drop out of the race and then endorse Trump. Now, that would be very similar shock to when Biden dropped out, and endorsed Kamala Harris. And funny thing is, it is the first one when Biden dropped out was happening with the Mercury-Uranus conjunction Mercury-Uranus part 1 happening, the square, not conjunction. That happening when Mercury was going direct. Then when it went retrograde, now it's in retrograde, we see that it might be happening again. So now with the Republican side, in a way, we have the RFK Jr. might drop out and endorse that. So that is part 2. And don't forget, with Mercury turning direct on the 28th, there is going to be a third square involved. I had 2. It's actually 3. So this can be huge in this election, as this election moves forward in that direct moving Mercury, because the last Mercury-Uranus square is going to happen just one more time on the 7th of September, and that is only 3 days prior to the debate. And we know how the last debate went that kind of set all this off. So a lot really kind of going on around it, and you can kind of see the way things are playing out. It might not have been as in your face as the Algol and the conjunction on Trump's MC and him almost getting shot in the head. Might not be that as in your face, but you can still see it. You can still kind of decipher the way the astrology is working. So it's kind of like when you're watching a TV show, and back in the 80s, it was a really big thing when the show would end at the end of the season and it would say to be continued, and you'd wait all that season because you're just anticipating what is going to happen, what is coming next. There's just been so much going on, and we see in the astrology that it's not done. There's a lot more to come. There's years more of this to come, and it doesn't look like, especially this is how the astrology has been all this year. And over the next couple years, we have all of our big guys. We have Pluto up here, finally ingressing fully into Aquarius. Then we have Neptune that's going to be coming out of its kind of modern rulership whole sign into Aries. Totally different kind of sign for it, totally different kind of feel. And then we're going to have Uranus moving into Gemini. So we have so much going on, and all the biggies making a big shift in the next couple of years. So I think, with the Neptune and Aries, Pluto and Aquarius, Uranus in Gemini, our ideas, our thoughts, ideas, our desires put into action. That's that fire. And then what will the future look like? Because we're moving into air signs, moving out of these mutable signs and into the action signs. So I think it's going to be pretty exciting for the next couple of years. So currently, Actually, it was yesterday. So the sun moves into Virgo. Happy birthday, Virgos, again. So it's time to really reap what you've sown. Virgo is like Saturn in that way because she makes you work for it. So mentally, with Mercury as the ruler, it can be challenging time. Virgo can feel a little inadequate, maybe like you're not doing enough, because you do know what work you put in is what you're going to get in return. And it is like that Saturn. It's like that Saturn return coming around, saying that, did you put in the work? And this is this karma. This is what you're getting, what you sow, pretty much reaping what you sow. So if you work hard, this is what you're going to get. So this can be, though, this inadequacy almost can be especially felt with all the energy we have going on around. So, normally it could just be that little bit of like, okay, I'm going to work really hard. Maybe I'm going to clean my house out, or, really do like a fall cleaning, because it's also like the cleanup crew. I like to talk about Virgo like they're kind of the cleanup crew. They get rid of all the excess, what we don't need, and they just keep everything down, get right back down to basics to get restarted again when we get into Libra season. So starting off the new season. So but with everything else that's going on, we have Venus and Virgo squaring. So Venus, not super happy in Virgo, a little bit too picky for her, a little too not that same lovey-dovey, like in Libra, when she moves into Libra, that just, everything's all flowy, nice, harmony. But this is a little more challenging, especially since she is squaring Mars in Gemini. So that mutable energy, just getting ready for change and adaptable, we see that theme going on here. So 6 of our 9 major players are in that adaptable sign. So it is really about going with the flow. Expect the unexpected. That's that, Uranus thrown in there, squaring everything, and just expect the unexpected, because you never know what's going to happen, and you just need to either go with the flow, or you're going to get left behind. But Venus, again, is not in her happiest in Virgo. She can be critical, self-critical, or this in the square with Mars, can be very vocal, especially with Mars being in Gemini. She can definitely be a fight starter. So you can expect, things. A lot of Virgo is your everyday routines in your home life. So things that normally don't bother you in your everyday life might become really irritating, especially, in those everyday routines. So be aware of it. And is it in a key area of your chart? Is it on one of the angles? Where is this falling for you? Where is Virgo for you that this is going to be happening, and where's the square going to be happening? So we have, Virgo here. It shows in the 6th house. So if you're Aries rising, it'd be in your 6th house. So for me, Virgo, of course, wouldn't be, because I am a Capricorn. But then you want to look at the houses that falls in. Mine is in my 9th house, and I'm not a Capricorn, I'm a Capricorn rising anyway. So, and it's in my 9th house, and then it would be in the square here to Mars, which is in Gemini, and that's in my 6th house. So that is kind of spelling out everyday routines, what you do, what you learn about, maybe even the way that you that you pray, the way that you kind of your morals even. So that's how mine might fall. So anyway, be aware of this. Look at where it is in your chart, because if it's on an angle or hitting like any of your luminaries, it could be especially uncomfortable. And you could find yourself really nitpicking your the people that you live with. If you have kids and they're not picking up their toys, you could really be snappy at them a little bit more than usual. If something's getting on your nerves, you want to remember, this too shall pass. You want to take a step back before really losing your cool, because Mars in there can really be that aggravator, can really be that, just that fuse that's just burning and about to explode, just really starting to put up your blood pressure a little bit. So you want to know, just take a breath, step back, and just, is this really worth me getting this upset about? And think about that, and know, because you do know what's going on with the astrology, you're watching this, so you know what can be happening, what you could be feeling. So over the weekend, you know, you just want to kind of maybe keep your emotions in check a little bit, and just know if you start feeling like you're about to go off the deep end about something as easy as someone leaving their socks on the floor, maybe know that it could just be this little transit. It too shall pass. Fortunately, the personal planets, they move rather quickly. So on the 28th, we have Mercury stationing direct. So we take that time to reflect on what we learned. So just kind of, you know, you want to sit even idly for a minute and just kind of, okay, so what has happened to me over these last couple weeks, while it's been in retrograde, or over kind of the past month almost, and really just think about, okay, what have we learned? What lessons have we learned? What have we seen happening around us that we can take and then move forward with Mercury then moving direct? So one thing that sticks out is that we had, you know, that huge crowd strike. Another thing that sticks out, I know I mentioned a couple already, but with this Mercury going direct, we had the huge crowd strike glitch that was that worldwide outage that happened. And that was, again, with that first Mercury Uranus square. So that is, again, like kind of what we saw with the Biden, you know, so we saw many things happening around this time, you almost forget. So this is very impactful square. And then we have the second one coming around during its retrograde, and we had heard the stories on the news from Iran attempting to hack the Trump and Harris campaigns. So I think that was a thwarted act. So pretty much the second Mercury Uranus square during the retrograde, we did thwart those attacks. So we did kind of learn to kind of be more aware of what could happen because of the first one. So now we're moving forward. We have on September 7th, the last Mercury Uranus square of the series. So I would really be on the lookout for more cyber hacks, outages, things like that. You know, check your accounts. Always check your accounts. Make sure no one's hacked your bank account or gotten any of your information. Always a good thing to look at. We also can expect more bombshells, I feel like, because Mercury is about information, messages, things like that. So with the first, again, we got that tweet via X that Biden was stepping down, endorsing Harris. Then with the second square, we have sources leaking news that RFK Jr. is leaving the race, likely to endorse Trump. So I found this to be somewhat, you know, of a surprise that he would be doing that, former Democrat. So that's that surprise with that Uranus. Like, you don't expect it, something you don't expect. So we haven't heard that yet in full. So I'm just saying the things that we've heard. So again, more political candidate bombshells, shockers with maybe with the running mates, perhaps. Plus the next debate just a couple days later on September 10th. You know, I really tried to keep the political out, but it's really almost impossible because it just seems like, you know, the planets are really just, you know, pulling the strings with this one, and everything that's happening is just kind of being spelled out and you can't ignore it. It's really hard to ignore. And what happens here in the United States, I know, does resonate around the world, and there's so much already going on around the world that everybody is feeling the effects of it. And if I did pay attention to the news all over the world, I'm sure I would have many more examples, but there's so much going on here. There's only so much you can pay attention to. So even the election, looking a little bit further, being smack after the new moon in Scorpio, Mars is going to be opposite Pluto at the time, Venus opposite Jupiter, and Mars moving into Leo. So it's like, just at a quick glance, you see somebody in the spotlight is going to do something transformational. Could be good, could be bad. Not sure yet. I want to get a little bit better of a reading on that. So ultimately, Venus will separate from the square after she moves back into her dignity on the 29th as she moves into Libra up here. So she's got her little fellow up there with the South Node. So feeling a little bit nice and at home. So a nice ending to the week, really, for most, a long weekend because we have Labor Day coming up that weekend here in the United States. So have fun going shopping, eating, loving all that's around you. Really take advantage of the changing weather. I'm already seeing the leaves changing, and I'll probably see that a lot more because we're going to be heading up to Maine and things change up a little faster up there. So I'm sure we're going to be seeing that. So beautiful time this year up there. We're going to be going antiquing and doing all those fun fall things and eating in some of the best food spots in the world. Not that I'm biased, but just look anywhere. Portland, Maine, come on. So anyway, we are going to be doing the September look ahead, so the whole month of September while we're up there. So be sure to like this video, subscribe, and please comment, because I love hearing from you guys, good or bad. I can take it. Well, I can take it to an extent. No, say whatever you want. I'd love to hear from you, how I can improve the channel, how we can work together as a team and start moving forward. So stay tuned. Again, the monthly September forecast next week, live in Portland, Maine. Well, not live, but filmed in Portland, Maine. And so hit that notification bell, and I'll see y'all soon. Bye.